And then when can they come?
It's a beautiful dress.
Thanks,
Son,
Roxy.
yes. AJ? That's a long time. AJ's 50 now.
Thanks,
so
Beth.
It's been a long time since he was, but NICO was a tremendous facility for him to get 2 years of work on.
You're from Plattsburgh, I'm assuming?
Not originally from Boston, but I've been in Plattsburgh most of it. Came with the Air Force when I was a young man. Fell in love with a local girl and stayed.
And I relocated here, 3 years ago?
What's that?
I relocated to Plattsburgh 3 years ago from Tennessee.
Oh, from Tennessee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Has it been 3 years ago? Was that when you came to NICO?
2017.
Okay.
Will, do me a favor, would you put this over where Michelle is?
What's going on, Chief? Good? Nice.
How about you?
Pretty good, yeah. Still trying to recover. I was on vacation last week. It was my birthday, so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's there already.
Hi, Jan. How are you?
That's yours.
No, that's.
Nope, I sit over there.
Cooler.
Okay.
Yeah, we have another chair over here. We do.
Okay.
How are you today?
Oh, good. How are you? It's been a busy day for me.
I tried to space everybody
Okay,
out
isn't
and
busy,
still
I'm
have
a
us all
mother.
face the same way. You want?
No, I'm fine. I'd rather have my 8 feet than sit at the table.
We need another chair?
No, there's another one right
Caprice,
over
right over
there.
there.
Caprice next to Chief Ritter. Okay. Are you comfortable like that or, okay?
Yeah. Wait, I see Michelle. There we go.
Trying to get everybody in and
Got it.
I'll be the social distancing.
Ready, Emily?
Okay, yes. Today's Monday, September 14th, 2020. It is 4:06, and we're going to start our meeting. Roll call, Emily Stacy, me, here. Amanda Bowlers-Allen. Here. Michelle Cromwell. Here. Maxine Perry.
Here.
Will Bell Brewer. Caprice Johnson. Hillary Rogers. Not here. She did message me. She had an emergency. I think you guys got the email for that. Jamie Duff out. Here. Bonnie Black.
Here.
Herb Carpenter.
Here.
Chief Ritter.
Here.
Elizabeth Gibbs.
Yes, I'm here.
We are going to approve the minutes for the meeting on August 31st, 2020. Motion.
Who was the motion? Who was first?
There wasn't anybody. I'll do it.
Oh, okay.
Will seconds.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
You don't have to-
Abstain.
You abstain?
Abstain?
Okay.
No, no, no. You
Oh.
gotta go through that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you just have to ask that, Emily, is what she was saying.
Okay, does anybody abstain? Okay, passed. Do we have to do the roll call again? Do we do the roll call again?
No, all in favor. If all are in favor,
If
you
all are
don't
in
have to
favor, you
go
don't have to
through
do
the roll call vote. It's only if you have somebody who's opposed or abstained, and then you go roll call, then we figure out who's who,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, very good, thank you. So we are going to make an amendment to the executive session. Bonnie, would you care to explain that, about the information that you had given me?
Yeah, many panels or committees that I sit on have, short, but a guideline, like we do professionally for our licensures and things like that. So it's sort of like a code of ethics or ethics and boundaries, quick statement, so we all understand we're working together toward a certain objective within a professional manner. And I would just like to raise that I haven't seen that for this committee, and I think it's important because we all are in contact with various parts of the community, and that this panel is held to, especially with our assignment, held to a high level, as we might be professionally and ethically. So a quick boundaries, but a short but thorough boundaries/ethics statement for the panel that we all, as members, could agree to, buy into, etc.
Okay.
If that
So,
makes-
so the motion is to,
It's not a motion yet.
what's that?
It's not a motion. It was a discussion by Bonnie.
Well, it was a statement by me. I
Yeah,
certainly
statement
can
by
make an
Bonnie.
emotion that I would like to
We have to read the
see
executive session.
a boundaries and ethics statement for members and future members of the panel. So that we're all working at a certain professional level with this very important assignment that we have. So there's your motion.
So you're making a motion that you create this? Or somebody? I'm
So
not-
in lieu of the executive session,
Not in lieu of.
well, that's the motion that,
No, it's no motion.
Okay, so the agenda says there's an executive session.
Right.
Are we moving to executive session or not?
No, we're not.
So you have to make a motion to amend
Amend it.
the agenda to delete the executive session. That's what you're saying.
Yes,
All right, so that's the first step.
okay.
All right, so Chair is going to make the motion.
I'm motioning to remove executive session.
I'll second.
Okay, hold on, let me just. Okay, now we have to go through the roll call. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Maxine, you opposed?
Yeah, I oppose.
Okay, hold on. Anybody else opposed?
I do.
Okay, so then let's go through roll call. So roll call is either a yes on the motion or a no.
The motion's to get rid of
To
the executive.
remove the executive session. So the motion on the table is to remove the executive session. Emily, why don't you take us through roll call, and that way I'll keep track of where everyone is.
Could you one more time explain that? I'm not
Sure,
I
there's a
understand.
motion on the table right now to amend the agenda to remove the executive session. So we're gonna vote on either yes, we're gonna remove it, or no.
So what's the reason why we're moving it?
Um,
I'm just
A
confused.
motion has been made by someone, so we,
But why?
Yeah,
We're not getting a clear picture here.
So I removed the executive session.
You suggested to remove the,
Right, I suggested to remove it. I also didn't make a motion to remove it because further information has come to me on a better fitting solution to why we were going to go into executive session. So I said that the second option was better fitting for the reason that I wanted to, or that we wanted to go into executive session. Because it was suggested, right, from two people on this panel that thought that would be the best thing to do. So with further discovery on my part, I decided that I was going to remove that from the table because it was not the best course of action for this panel. So we can discuss that. However, the sensitive side of why we were gonna go into executive session falls under personal. Therefore, it's not something that the community should be aware of right now.
okay, so then. why
I
don't
understand, we weren't going, because you go into executive
Yes.
session, good community is not involved, it's just the panel.
Under the open meetings law, I think there's specific definitions of like why you can go into executive session, and from Emily and I discussed it right before the meeting. And it felt like, from my understanding of open meetings law and the reason why this was put on the agenda, it felt like that there is an alternate option that will be better, I think better for the panel overall. But, I mean, we're all here to vote however way we feel.
And that
Right,
there-
but we're
and-
not getting the big picture, we got, not getting the whole
And
picture.
that there was a step that could be taken prior to going into executive session. So without executing that step, that would be like putting the cart before the horse,
So
right?
this is a discussion that we're having related to the motion before we vote. Yes? Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yes, okay. Good.
okay,
Got
listen,
it.
procedurally, there's a motion on the table.
Could you
We need to
explain-
vote on the motion.
Yeah,
Herb's
You
got
can
it.
have
We
discussion
can have
before the
discussion
vote.
before we
I
We
vote.
have
have a
discussion
problem
before a vote.
understanding.
So this is a discussion we're having.
Herb has something to say, he doesn't understand what's going on.
So this doesn't mean we're voting to either go into session or not go into session, is that correct?
Can I-
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I,
You're
You are.
voting, the motion is to not go into session.
And now we're having a discussion about the motion,
Right,
and which is helpful, thank you.
right.
so the idea or concept would be in lieu of going into executive session, Bonnie proposes to solve or to tackle one of the challenges that are at hand, to create an ethics and boundaries
State.
statement that each of us as panel members would review, sign, and hopefully uphold to the best of our abilities, in lieu of going into a private session, so that we all have the same understanding.
Okay, this panel is empowered by the sorry. This panel is empowered by Common Council resolution, so I would have to bring that through corporate council before that decision can be made, so just to let you know.
Can I ask a question to make it simple? Why would we not go into an executive session to, I don't understand it.
If it's a personnel issue, Herb,
I see.
we want to take it to executive. But if that issue regarding certain personnel could be solved with a step before the
Before going,
intense executive session discussion, then perhaps we could solve it before having an intense executive session.
yeah, I've never been on a committee that if somebody wanted to have an executive session, that
I've
we
been on
didn't
many.
have an executive session. I apologize for
Yeah, well,
not
that's okay.
being up to speed on,
Yeah, because when you have open meetings, if you want to talk about a specific person or
Understand.
people, that's not public comment, that's not public, for public knowledge. So you go into what's called an executive session, discuss what you need to, and then you come back out into the regular part of the meeting.
Well, that's what I thought we were gonna do. Go in, discuss this, give an individual an opportunity to tell their side and come out of the session.
But is
It's
it a
not
side? I don't even know if it's a
Yeah,
side.
Is it a what?
I mean, a side, you know, I don't even know if it's a side of something. I think it's a, personally, my thought is it's an ethics issue.
and I kind of agree with Maxine.
Is it possible, can we do the session to understand what the issue is and see if the solution proposing?
Oh, I
Right.
like that.
We have a vote on the table, so we can just vote to do it or not do it.
Right.
A majority.
Right, so the motion's on the table. Amanda's correct. If,
Yeah.
whenever we feel like discussion comes to an end, whenever the panel decides, that's when we make the vote, and then however way people vote, that'll decide.
So the motion was to,
The
somebody.
motion is to remove the executive session from the agenda.
Can we do the roll call?
That's if the panel's finished with
Want to do a
discussion.
roll call?
Yeah, Amanda?
Well, Emily, are you?
Yeah, I'm first, so, I'm just indecisive. I mean, I see the point on
Okay.
both sides, I do.
We can come back to you.
Yeah, so I was gonna put myself last.
Okay.
Amanda, what do you think? Yes or no?
The motion's to remove, I say yes. Just want to
Okay.
be clear, because there's,
Michelle?
I say no, keep the executive session.
Maxine?
I say no.
Will?
I said no.
Caprice?
I say no.
Hillary is not here. Jamie?
No.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Herb?
No.
You skipped Chief Ritter.
No, he's next.
Oh, sorry.
Chief Ritter?
Yes.
And Elizabeth?
No.
So the noes have it.
Yeah, I say no.
Okay, so then we have 3 votes for yes to remove it. The remainder are noes. There are more noes than yeses, so we move to executive session.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have to stop the live.
Yep, so no, the live stream stays. So at 4:19, we enter executive session into this room here.
Oh, okay.
You seem to be hesitating. You're saying it's a personal issue.
I was here everyone when discussed with they're divided. This committee is so divided.
Yeah, I can tell that.
Uh,
But is it a personal issue
One
of
person.
someone on board?
yes.
Oh, it's not me? Okay.
I said something many times to them. I said, you gotta do the work this out. It's ridiculous. But this committee is falling apart.
And it's ethics.
No?
How many meetings have they had?
This has been going on almost 5 months.
Every month, every week?
For a little while, it was every week, then went to every 2 weeks, and back to every week. So this has been going on for a while. They had a couple of issues. I pointed out to them a few times. I told the chief, I told the other girl, you got the show divided, you got races going on. You know, this board is home. That place is gonna fall apart.
What I want to say, and it's on here, in the file, is the survey results. That's what I want to see.
So I hope you get it.
Well, yeah, they, I don't.
What does Chris have to say?
But I think, all of this blah, 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 but I want to know what the survey, what is the people in Plattsburgh think? That's what I want. I like that idea.
Easier said than done.
They don't open. That's one thing about City Hall. They don't open. It's a prison.
Oh, yeah, they got that.
It's like
You want an air conditioner. Where's my birthday?
This thing up on my face. Don't
Yeah, it's kind of a challenge.
We should figure the whole board and start fresh. I don't know how many people we placed already?
Well,
They keep replacing, they replace us, we don't know already.
they have replaced some.
They quit.
Here's the thing, a person quits, then they have to go back over all that
4 or 5
individual.
months worth of stuff, have you caught up? Did you get another one that clips, you got another one coming, they try, we only got one thing accomplished so far. And de-escalation, that's one thing we got accomplished so far.
De-escalation.
That was it.
What does that mean?
There's a lot more to get finished.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all, end of the summer.
Because the mayor decided to get end of December was a good time.
To do what?
He wants this thing all done.
It's not gonna be done.
That's what we're trying to say.
It's ongoing.
But the state is giving everybody else to April. But our mayor decided at the end of December.
He wants it done before he leaves office.
Yeah. I think he's gonna be very sensitive.
You can't rush it, I'm sorry, you just can't rush stuff like this.
No. You can't.
You know, you gotta, if you can't work together as a team, forget it, you just got a disaster. That's the whole issue, there. This is sick right here. You see how they killed the police officer?
Oh, is that where they shot the two?
Yeah, the car, they're over by the hospital, they want to live there, so what the guy.
Yeah.
I have a black eye, I'm not saying something I wouldn't be involved with.
Well, I mean, that's just murder.
That's murder. There's some-
Yeah, that's not.
That's horrible. You know, you get her, so she let the mother die, she left the 6-year-old behind.
Oh.
Shot twice in the head, the other multiple gun wounds. I don't understand. You know, these people need to take this stuff seriously, because you just don't know where it's gonna happen. You got the riots in Rochester, you got Vermont, and
So I wanna know, like, why do they have rookies in the car together?
yeah,
They've both been there 14 months.
oh, yeah. Where did they send their reserve? Well, they had a small detail job. So it wasn't like a rough area where, but then you're right, why did they have 2 rookies?
Yeah. I mean, I realize the guy came up behind them in a way.
No, he came from behind, then he started walking, all of a sudden he turned around, bang, 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 when I saw the video, I was like, so I don't see what purpose that's gonna do for us, it's just gonna make us look bad, it's gonna defeat the purpose of what we're fighting for.
Well,
Well,
I mean, was the guy of color? I mean,
Yeah.
It was? Great.
that just gives us somebody spray painted, killed the effing cops right here in Plattsburgh.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, how are we supposed to work stuff out when you're just, people just need to slow down, take a deep breath,
Well,
and reevaluate everything.
yeah, well, and that guy shouldn't have a gun. I mean, that guy's insane. That is something like that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
That he had some kind, I think he had some kind of mental issue like that. I just think he was unstable or,
Clearly.
but that's just nuts to walk into a police car and start ambushing on the shoot.
So these guys have till the end of December.
And this, the executive order says April, but the mayor wants it done before he leaves office.
And that's to come up with a reform plan?
Yeah,
I mean, like, they don't have is it defined what they're supposed to do? Is it defined? Like, what
Okay.
areas are supposed
They
to-
put out the state put out an executive order,
Oh, no.
and this is what,
sure.
just ignore my highlighting.
Why?
My highlighting, it's just something I'm interested in, and you may not be.
We got the sheriff's one coming up too. We haven't checked that one out, but we got a meeting tomorrow.
So what did they do for the de-escalation training? What did they figure out there?
What were they doing?
You said they got that done.
Yeah, supposedly, but
Well, if you consider the use of physical force and deadly physical force in firearms, the chief rewrote what they're,
That's their.
you have to kind of compare it against the old one to see if anything changed.
I see.
But here's the problem, they want police training, but the city council wants, that's more than the funds, okay? So this panel can sit here and target this person, but they gotta realize, just like the mayor and the city council, they're not giving the police department proper money for training. It should not be our responsibility of one person. No, I'm not looking at the police department, but I'm looking at both angles. Where's all the money at?
Right, where's the money?
Yeah, that's what we heard meeting about, and
Yeah, and the one thing with the money that was really kind of funky,
see, that's
for the
a charge.
total, there was an actual budget for the police, and then there was a projection for the police for 2020, with a $3 million difference. How you get that?
That's what we go to the city council meeting, and you start bringing that up. I think they need to be audited, the mayor needs to be audited.
Just the numbers on, the numbers not good. I just still learning, still investigating.
Seizure of property, where's all that money at? Where are the seizures?
Oh, yeah, the seizure money.
Where's all that money at? They be talking about, what was that, 3 or 4 months laid out the police officers, where's the money for that at? Okay, there's a lot of questionable here. What they're trying to do, they're trying to design, get rid of them, put them they want it. I'm just a little iffy about all this stuff right now. And,
We got an ethics issue, that's what we, but you don't get training in ethics.
What do you
in the
folks-
state, no. Only in the federal.
What are you folks here for? Like, just to observe, or you got like, right now, yeah?
Members of the public, members of the public are encouraged to attend these.
Yeah, you just wanna check it out, see what's happening, yeah.
Yeah, we've been attending since like the second year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was under two.
Well, yeah, that's great, that's a long time. So what do you think about the process?
I think more people should show up and more people should be asking questions and bringing their ideas and what
where's
they
Becky? She
should
didn't
be
come.
They think we should be done, like de-escalation training. I don't think we do have that, and I think, yeah, we could, that could be something that they can do more, and mental health, definitely, and body cams especially. We don't have that yet,
Did they talk about that at all?
not yet, no.
Oh, body
Yeah, that has a price on it, but.
Oh, very.
Yeah, it's not in their budget, nor is it anything that think they're gonna get.
But
That's not okay.
Even
you
one
shouldn't
officer,
decide whether you need something or not just because of your budget.
that you have to go to the city and the city council for that. That's the sad part.
Plus, but you might be able to get grants for that kind of thing.
That's what we were talking about a while back with though, because there's a research group I gotta meet with, I got, go get a card, I gotta meet with somebody that was trying, because they got rid of the resource officer at school, which I think other people that interviewed on that one.
Well, I'm gonna say $60,000, or $90,000, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, but that's different figures, you don't know who's has.
Yeah, we don't know.
I just think there's more to. So we have a meeting tomorrow for, set a meeting with our research company. So we're gonna do research, we're gonna do look at stuff.
Are you coming for the second one too or something?
I've been to a lot of them. I missed some for a while.
What do you think about what they're doing? Are they getting making progress?
I don't know where they're going.
It's,
So
it's
it's all about an ethics issue.
whatever. I haven't missed one meeting, it's gotten last week. It's a power trip.
Are you from a newspaper?
No, I'm just a friend of David's,
Oh,
and this is my first meeting here. This is my first meeting, and, I just wanted to kind of figure out what, to see what's happening down
Usually
here.
it's not like that, usually it goes,
Public comment is at every, well, it should be at every meeting, but.
But it's not?
No,
There
they cut.
was one without it, but at the end, it should, there's public comment, and that's where people can say, like,
there you go. What's going on?
Yeah.
So what happened was, I confronted a couple of them. I go, you guys are so divided, they're not even fighting. I confronted the chief about that. I go, y'all need to work together and stop, this BS. It's like a power trip. Who's this, who's that? I go, that's not how it works, guys. You must stop that. I don't got so much time. Well, in such a short time, that's not enough to get all this stuff done. Then we're talking about training. There ain't no money. She did her research. We got the budget sheet. How come we no money for police training? But they want them trained. Where's the money? We need the money for training. Because there ain't nothing you can really do unless we get more money. I think when they take the police officers to school, I don't think who they talk to. I talked to many African Americans after that last one when they took the officer. I don't know who they talked to. A lot of them said they didn't bother them having a resource officer. So I asked my kids. You know my kid, Julia.
Yeah.
Julia, African American girl. I didn't see nothing wrong with the guy. He just walked down the hallway. I have not seen him tap on anybody.
Yeah.
I have not seen him try anybody out of school dad. So I asked my other handicapped son. Dad, what do you mean? He's gone? I realized said that he's not good for school. My daughter has a good point. I have one in school was good to stop bullying. Because somebody's there, you can see it. I mean, so there's some good and bad factors. I think the pipeline in prison, look at the other cities, look at the bigger cities. I think they need to focus on the community. Was it school or pipeline or prison or something? I don't know got the research, but they need to change it. They need to do a better job of getting their information. That's what's frustrating.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
Like, in this, they're addressing the particular needs of the community. And you could ask anybody that'd say what they think the needs are, but what I'm interested in is the survey. Have you seen the survey?
Yeah, I think I filled it out.
Okay.
Oh, you know.
And the last meeting, or the one before, they had 390 something
And they
people.
still have more when she was pregnant.
But now there should be a lot more, and I want the results of those, because then we're gonna see what this community needs
Right.
to address.
Right.
And without that survey, what the people want, and I was so glad people didn't have to put their names on it.
Well, my guess is that the survey did not get to enough college students either.
Oh, no.
I'm just gonna guess that, if you want college students to do it, how,
Oh, no, they pass it out, 'cause I know it's passed out on the police website, passed out on Facebook, the city website, and whoever shares.
the college student distribute it? To their inner,
I hope they got it.
Well,
You know,
They'd have to, the college would have to differentiate between their policing force and this one. But,
That's what I'm saying, like, you have to do, because somebody said something about, well, I like a survey, how come the sheriff's department and the state police aren't even on the survey? I don't think we have restriction over them guys, that's like outside the city. Oh,
that's the
and
point.
they're like, well, no, we want to be able to do one with the state police, with the sheriff, and, I don't know.
maybe that's what the sheriff is setting up to do.
Maybe we can bring that up to them with the meeting, tell them, look, we got you need to do a survey for the county, the countywide.
Oh, yeah.
Do not just citywide, but do a countywide one. So we can get more accurate. Because the people I talk to, that are, African American, my friend, but they rude, they go, I'm more scared of a state trooper than I am a city cop.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we need to know.
That is what we need to know.
So when the state trooper pulled me over, oh, good Lord, I started to go. So one time I got pulled with my wife, First question he asked me if I had a gun in my car. He messaged my license and registration. First he asked me if I had a gun in my car.
I've never been asked that. I've been pulled over a couple times, and that's one of the questions. Uh-oh. Did they kick you out?
No, they didn't. I actually could use a break.
She walked out.
She's a little reader.
A little meditation can restore your process, and if you're ready to go back, you go back. If you're not, you don't.
You know, so it feels like sometimes, I've been to every one of these meetings. I have not
You
missed one.
absolutely have.
You know, I've seen some problems here, but I told you I don't miss a beat. I don't here about 3:30. I have my car parked by 3:29 because I come o'clock. Pretty good, huh? So what do we get, yeah, we were not supposed to guys.
Oh, yeah.
There were, they said that there was a job. I wonder if it was on.
Jay. I'm gonna send you a message with her information. But they're like a research company, they wanna be part of helping out and stuff. I'm okay, good. I had like 5 business cards from different people that just started messaging me. But what kills me the most is when people ask me, like, how can you with the chief when they're cops and stuff? You know, that's the problem with people. You got to build that bridge, guys. You can't just keep going further apart. That's what's going on now.
Yeah, people are really good at finding things that make themselves different from other people.
Yeah.
I'm not as good at finding things, I think, that make them the same.
If they're willing to work with us or talk
That's
to
such
us,
a good statement, actually. We're all really good at finding our differences, but not our commonalities.
me, I'm just wild. I talk to everybody. I don't care if they're the KKK, I'll still talk to you. I'll talk to you, Daniel. Actually, that's the chief. I met a neo-Nazi. Me and him actually had a meeting at the park.
Yeah?
He had a neo-Nazi tattoo. But we had a decent conversation. But trust me, I was making sure I was looking around, which we wasn't gonna kill me, okay? But it was nice. I met another dude that is a really racist, and he is racist. Me and him just had a talk with him and another guy. I just wanted to ask him, why do you not like us? He just wanted me to because I hate niggers. Really? And I was like, okay. But I don't hate you. I just want to find out why, give me a little more information. A decent conversation. But please, I was checking with Sean, I was sitting underneath the tree. I was telling you, I got those things that go through my mind. That's what my wife goes, your mind will come, you'll talk to everybody. I don't care if they like me or not, I still talk to them. But that's how you get information from people. You know, it's pretty,
Well, that's how you bring peace too, right?
yeah, and I don't know, he didn't threaten to hurt me, but we shook hands after we got done. But I just know to stay away from this part of town. I'm gonna go, that's the thing, Julia knows how a problem is. Right? Julia will say, God, you're crazy half the time. I just talk, you can just tell me something, let them do the local town. He goes, you always respect me when you come and see me. You never say that about my Confederate shirt, okay? Why am I gonna say Confederate shirt? I didn't pay for it. I'm just calling back. Oh, I gotta be locked out. No. So when am I gonna sit there and say something about his shirt that they're not on my paycheck? It's his choice what he wants to wear. I was gonna sit there and argue with myself, right? It takes more energy to argue with them. I want them to understand and educate. I feel like from both sides, that's what I'm trying to teach Julia. Julia is very quiet. She always worries about me every day. She always gets nervous. It's getting bad. Julia's like, oh God, I gotta be careful. Jules.
She's a junior?
She's a senior. She's getting ready. She does, I think we're working on our application for NYU. Wow. She's all ready. So we're doing her scholarships. There's a fun part. I go, Jules, you get your license, right? I go, me and mom give me 12,000. But it'd be a nice car, right? She thought that was her deposit. Wow, really, Jules?
That's wishful thinking.
I didn't even give your brother that. I said, we gave your brother 8,000 for a car. He bought a car. She was like, Dad, okay, Jules, just don't go over 20,000 for her, that's all I gotta say. I mean, she's a good student, she works hard, never given me any problem. Out of the 6 kids, my son's the one more that she was like, I never. So Julie, how's Lacey doing?
She's
She's a senior.
she's giving me trouble as far as college. She's determined to not go to college in the state. It's like, well, we're not gonna be able to, I mean, I've told her how much we could pay for college, and after that, it's all on her. And, she's not really coming up with in-state options.
She's trying to get away from her.
She is.
Oh.
So if she does go to state, it'll probably be Buffalo.
I don't know nothing about NYU, I just looked at certain stuff.
Yeah, I think I should have her look at NYU. Why not look at NYU?
Yeah, because I was talking to the chief, because everybody mentions the big cities in New York City, so I know it's just hard to be careful.
She thinks the city would be fun. I grew up in Manhattan. I loved it down there. Well, I don't know, I laughed and I went back.
Well, I was hoping she would apply for the state, but she was going to the city. My other daughter's going to school to be a special ed teacher this year. The other daughter, she graduates in another year or whatever, she's applying for Ball Smith to be a chef. She goes to culinary art degree. The other 2 kids, they can't really do much because they're disabled, so. But they have their little dreams too, that, I try to help out. So it's a challenge. Over 6 kids, we have 3 foster kids, so we had a total of 9 kids that we were trying to take care of.
Insane.
Yeah, but we still do it. That's why I know.
Yeah.
But this one, I did really good. No one got me drugs.
Yeah, well, there's still time, Dave, you can say that, but.
I'll cross my fingers.
Yeah.
I'm crossing my fingers every day. I'm lucky, I'm blessed. But I'm hoping things will get better.
Hey, what's the guy's name that was the assistant basketball coach, a couple of years ago, and then he worked with Tom, and then.
You know, we have Travis was never a coach, he coached,
He was Travis.
Travis, yeah. He's supposed to leave this area.
He's gonna leave?
He said, well, as soon as he gets a chance, he's out of here. He said that, we did everything, we fought hard. You just not gonna get to these people's houses and stuff. So,
What does he mean by that? What's he
he
talking
wants
about?
to this area, Plattsburgh area,
Right, so what was he unable to do?
Oh, I mean, just with the racism, he said, he just can't wait till, get money, get out of here. But right now, I told the kid.
I was kind of pissed that he wasn't the coach,
Yeah.
coach this year or last year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but I think that's sort of a school thing, like, and I think that the schools give any teacher priority
Yeah.
over people who actually can do the job.
Well, I got mad.
Travis was incredible, he was fantastic.
Well, I told the first one, Mr. Manchester, because they filed a complaint against me, because I told the coach I was wrong. Like, you got 3 seniors. What did you do? You cut the 3 seniors for freshmen on?
Yeah, that was weird too.
Yeah, but these seniors can't play again the next year. Those freshmen have time to play. Oh,
That
that's
was
not.
messed up.
And then Mr. Manchester told me I need to be a little more nicer with the coach. I don't know, that's not right. These girls wanted to finish the basketball season with the months.
Right.
But towards the end, they don't play, remember?
Well, not, one of them she never suited up. She was like assistant coach
Yeah.
right there.
It's like, they let certain people play the whole time, which I think that's unfair.
I kind of do too, and one of them was Lacey,
Oh, listen, I'm talking about the freshmen.
Oh, yeah. But even then, I'm not.
Lacey's
I
a row.
I think they should rotate
Yeah,
more and give people more play time.
that's what Travis was saying, how they're supposed to be good if you don't give them a chance,
Right.
And then, so she was like, look to practice every day. Don't miss a beat. Why are they only playing for 2 minutes?
Right.
I forgot which girl she was, but I played a total of 3 minutes and 10 seconds the whole game. And her father's like,
There was only 12 of them.
yeah, and it's gotten to the point where, that's why I love Jewel, she don't let it bother her. She just doesn't She just enjoyed being on the team. Well, some of those shots she made, I had some pictures where she fell right on her butt. I got so many likes on Facebook on that one. Oh, boy, I got, actually, my daughter fell on her butt. She was like that. I go, look at all those dumps I got. But, yeah, she's a hard worker. She did the summer program, social services last year. And she worked at Big Guns this year for a little bit. Oh, but
So I should probably go to that website, probably where you got that. I wrote down the document there.
they don't have no extra ones there.
And just try to do some reading and kind
You
of
might be
figure out
able
where
you
things
might be
are.
able to get something there. They should have extra ones. They should have some of the other ones.
Well, this thing here is like 60-something pages, and I only got pertinent ones. But if
Oh,
you,
you printed that one, right?
yeah, that one, but the budget one is really huge, but I didn't get all that.
The budget one, you can get off the city website.
Okay.
Just go to Plattsburgh City.
Yeah, and this is, it's the State of New York Executive Order number 302.
Hey, you get down to the website too, right? I just put, if you haven't,
Sure it's not 203?
Yes, you're right, because she's smart,
No, you're good, you're good,
and I,
Thank you.
you're
read
good.
that backwards.
you can't get some, let me know, right out of, talk to the chief, just with that, and get you a copy, so you can see
Okay.
them
No,
all.
it's
I got mine somewhere in the house.
did they go over any data or anything? Like any racial data?
She's on the
Arrests and, well.
Should we go over the data?
I don't wanna bust, I mean, you're.
What's that?
I don't wanna interrogate you out here, you kinda take your break.
No, people are trying to get the data.
Oh, no,
for
I'd
racial-
rather be in this company at this point in time.
Did we do the data on that, racial profile, or we worked on that,
So the survey will be done on the 16th, which actually has demonstrated quite a bit of characteristics, but also I believe Levi's working on putting some data together regarding racial
Okay, that's
profiling.
good.
I think maybe Aubrey, did you have a conversation with you last week or something?
Kind of, as well,
Yeah,
kind of brief.
yeah.
Cause that seems kind of important, I mean, that's sort of the reality of the situation, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're trying to identify like what our community perceives the needs to be, right? So we know that there's this global issue, but then it's like, okay, but right here, what are our biggest issues? And I think that's what we're kind of,
The biggest issue out here is the mental health, the mental health issue, that's like the number one thing so far is. My daughter had mental health, and somebody called the cops while back on us. And I told her, calm down, something like, she wanted a bigger piece of cake or something, she's like, she was 18 at the time, and she don't understand her mentality level. That cop came in and goes, if you don't stop crying and screaming, blah, 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 next you know, she's on the ground in handcuffs. Yeah, that's why I was like, my wife's like, we're just freaked out, because he goes, well, it's for my safety. I know it's for
It's the chair's job.
So we're returning from executive session for a personnel matter, and no decisions were made. For the old business, we have Michelle for the operationalizing of the executive order. Would you like to take the lead on that, Michelle?
So I just thought I wanted to, and just in terms of the way I things. I tend, not black or white, but I just wanted us to come back to the order. And to Elizabeth's point, we have until December, what is it?
The resolution empowers us until December 31st. So procedurally, we've been over this duty before. There's some things that we need to understand about the deadlines attached to our work.
Right.
Can
I finish my thought though?
Can I finish my explanation, and is that okay? Or?
You go ahead.
Okay, so the resolution leaves us in power until December 31st. If this panel, as it is comprised, would like that to be reflected into the next year to continue to do the work, April of 2021, in line with the executive order deadline, that would require a new resolution from the council. Any decisions that, any recommendations from this panel that have budgetary impacts would have to be enacted by the end of October at least, because because the process in line with the executive order, which is recommendations, public feedback, submit to the council, and then legislative action, anything that is going to have budgetary impacts, Ira Barbell and I are the Public Safety Committee, and we are making decisions for the budget for next year. So if you waited until April to do all recommendations to council and legislative action and budgetary impacts, anything budgetary would not be able to be enacted next year. You would have to wait, because you can't change budget in April. It's just not the way the municipal budget process works. It would have to go into the budget for the next year. And so the budget process in a municipality starts at roughly July.
Okay.
That's my point. I wanted us to look at the executive order, specifically things that I thought we didn't touch on, and which is why I sort of like green, almost like a ROT analysis. I was just looking at it again and saying, what are some of the things we definitely looked at? What are some of the things we touched on lightly, and what are some of the things we didn't look at? And I specifically was looking at, they talked about using an evidence-based model to look at addressing racial bias, disproportionate community policing. Granted that we're getting the data back from the survey. But I was also looking at things like the implicit bias awareness training, conflict resolution, looking at hotspots. So I just felt that there were some things that we didn't really touch on, and I was wondering how I can bring that back to the fore to say these are some things that the executive order asked us we look at, and just bring it back to our attention. Not a judgment, just an observation to say, can we look at these things again?
So I would echo what you're saying. In the guides that came out, I uploaded to the drive, it actually has the suggested work plan. I have it open to that page, it's at the very end. So there's several phases. There's planning, listening and learning, draft initial proposals, public comment, and revise and ratify. And it kind of touches on what you're saying in each of these phases. If we're to use this, we're in the listening and learning phase, September and October. Draft day plan is November, December. Public comment and ratification January through March, and then you submit for the local legislative body. But it touches on these things like identify measurable goals, draft a reinvention plan, identify areas of focus. These are the things that you're talking about, but we're still kind of assembling some ideas, I would guess.
Right, and assembling ideas, and I think my question was, as we assemble these ideas, can we assemble the ideas in a way that is honing in on these parts
So
that it's
that's what
look at?
these things specifically reference. All 100 pages are exactly the same things that you talked about in just greater detail.
Right.
So this is just the short part of it, but these go back and reference the things you're talking about. So I'm agreeing with you that,
Yeah.
that this should be our guide. It addresses all the things that you're mentioning there. It's very well laid out.
So,
Michelle.
do you have a suggestion then on how, like between both of what you're saying, you're dovetailing here. Do you have a suggestion on,
My suggestion
yeah.
would be that our earliest, we should have a list of things that we are going to tackle.
Yeah.
We've kind of stalled at policy review and just asking questions. So we should really be targeted in what our identifiable goals are here, much like what you're bringing up.
Right, and really do a RAG analysis, and when I say RAG, red, amber, green. And in that RAG, we might not be able to do all of this, right? But based on those goals and objectives, there's some clear things we can say, oh, we can do this, we can do this, and then we hone in on those, and we start doing
I agree.
more listening, and then move into the planning phase. Otherwise, we'll just be circling
Right.
and spinning. And I don't want us to get to that point, because I also don't want the community to be frustrated with us. And I think some of the frustration that we hear from people that come to the open, what do you call it?
Public comment?
Public comment, thank you. Could be some of that frustration with looking at this and saying, what are they not touching on?
I agree.
So I just wanted to bring us sort of like back to just bring it back to our periphery, because it's here, but just to say, these are the things that we could be looking at.
And,
So I think Chief Ritter's suggestion is well taken.
yeah, because it's already written, we don't have to reinvent everything.
No, it's
It's
all
right
here.
there.
It's all here.
Yeah, I said that early on, there's some great work that's been done already, and we just have to piggyback on some of that and put it in context that's appropriate for our area.
Right.
Because some of this talks about the large cities and the urban areas. But we can bring it back and say, for our area, this is what we see.
But we
And
only-
as far as the money is concerned, we know we need training, so we need to go on and work on that and get that in, so we can have that in that budget for them to even consider something for 2021, because it's needed.
And can I say one more thing that addresses something that Amanda said?
Mhm.
And so the email that I sent was me just writing as I was thinking. But in some of the work groups that Amanda was suggesting that we do, maybe that could be one of the ways that we do some of this work, right? So they talk about studies addressing systemic bias in policing, implicit bias training, and a number of other studies. Maybe there could be a work group that could be looking at those studies and then bringing that evidence
To the committee.
to, and I like to dig into studies.
I was just gonna say, like, we only have, I think, eight more meetings scheduled till the end of the year, or something like that. So 8 meetings at an hour and a half for 8 meetings, so that's not much time if the only time we put into this is during this meeting. So that's why I've been pushing, and I don't mean to be pushy, but the idea of work groups, because people have specific interests and specific skill set, and if we can hone in on everybody's interests and skill sets in specific work groups, then I think we can get more done.
And I think that's a conversation we needed to have so that there's a transparency, so that we're all on the same page of why we're
Right.
doing this.
Not print it and say, this is it. And sometimes sending emails to say, you gotta get back to me by 12, that's good that you send it out like that. But a lot of times you can't get back to that right at that point. So we'll get back when we can, but we need to be considerate of, people's time as well.
No, I
And not
agree, but
consider-
we need to
not
be
con-
considerate of the timeline and also of people's time. If I send an email out suggesting something and I don't hear one way or the other, I'm assuming that A, you didn't read it, B, you don't care, or C, you just agree with what I wrote.
You just can't assume that. You gotta give people an opportunity, because from the time you send the email out to noon.
Maxine, I sent 2 weeks ago, I've sent emails out for this whole last 2 weeks. I think I've heard
No, I'm
from
not
two of
talking
you.
about those emails, because I didn't have a part in there, I didn't have a,
That's the problem, is
I didn't have a
people aren't
suggestion.
responding. So if people aren't responding, I just assume, well, we gotta do the work, so let's move forward.
That's something actually I've been struggling
Sometimes you have to
with.
kind of wait a little bit.
Yeah, but Maxine, I do understand Amanda's concern because and I think Caprice can appreciate this when she was my vice chair, is that we'd send things out and ask people to respond, and very few people responded, and this has been an ongoing issue since the beginning of the panel. And we
I'm
want
just asking,
everybody.
maybe for a little more time, like, people get kind of
Well,
tired
and
of.
that's why I
Like
don't.
a day, give us 2 days or a day or so.
That's
to
why
get this
I
done.
don't finalize the agenda until Monday morning, is because of the people waiting till last minute. And if you're appreciative of the time that it takes to do that, it would be nice to have it in a more timely fashion. Like, there's a good 4 or 5 days after we have the meeting for you to put something on the agenda, which would be like a Friday or Saturday morning. But to do it Monday morning does actually make it harder on me, because I finalize the agenda.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Well, isn't it though?
No, not the agenda.
But the things that get put on the agenda, I have to finalize them, and I do that Monday morning because of how late things come in. And I think that's what Amanda's trying to say.
I heard exactly what she was saying, but I'm saying, a lot of times, okay, if you're off on Tuesday, you don't get that email asking for that. So what do? You just don't answer at that time.
And that's fine if you don't.
Because you can't.
Right, and I'm
So
not
give
talking.
people a couple of days, at least.
And Maxine, I'm not talking about like 1 or 2 days. It comes in like 5, 6 days later, and that is the concern, because it makes it harder for me Monday morning. I have to get up early to get this agenda out for Beth to print it for us for today. And that's,
Things supposed to be able to go on the agenda the day of the meeting even.
it's not supposed to, but
But-
things are so late that is,
I don't
and to be
really-
fair to the members of the panel and
I
what they
don't
wish to
really
be on the
put things
agenda.
on the agenda at the last one. I don't.
No, I'm
bring
not-
us back to our work. Michelle had comments about our work, our goals, our charge. Levi answered. We got a timeline. I really would like to interrupt this because of time.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
This
fine.
can happen another time. I don't know if we want to go to Michelle or where.
Are you guys okay on the discussion? Is there more?
I think
Michelle's discussion.
we landed with what Levi said, that we need to, I think we landed with Amanda. Well, we decided that we can look at the charge,
Mhm.
create some goals and objectives, and then maybe we might need to get some subcommittees done.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't take it back, but I think now that we've had the discussion, it's now transparent, and we understand why we need to do that.
Mhm.
And that's one of our goals, so
Right.
I agree with you.
Can I ask a question, just to clarify? What deadline do we really? Do we have a deadline of December, or do we have a deadline of April? Because I see in the executive order and the letter to Chief Ritter that the deadline the governor set up was in April, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So
That's our deadline.
if our deadline is December, we gotta, I gotta tell you, I don't see how.
No.
Well,
given
we
the
can't do everything by
circumstances.
December, the end
So
of
what-
December.
So if that is an artificial deadline, then we ought to.
It's
we
a
ought to figure it
deadline.
out. If we have a deadline of December, we gotta do some haste and speed here.
Well, I
If
think
we don't, you have a little more time. And
I think it's
maybe,
all right.
maybe
I
I'd
was
ask
saying-
Chief what he thinks.
Right,
What-
but you just said that you had this, the layout as to when we're supposed to be touching on each topic. So if we stick to that, then we'll be good for April. But this December date that we have, or is it October?
December.
There, like, we won't be able to follow that.
I think the December days will be an issue in terms of the budget.
That's
what she
right.
was,
Correct.
she was saying.
Mhm.
In terms of the budget, we'll be able to pick that day. if we want to make any recommendation to get money,
So
or allocate money, we have to make those.
Counselor Gibbs was saying was by the end of October for budgetary concern.
And that's probably what we need to concentrate on at
Yes.
this time.
Bonnie?
I'm just giving the facts.
So then, I mean, I thought we discussed this in the last session, and we all agreed that this needed more time.
Right.
And we all wanted it moved to April. So what do we need to do with the city council to get this done, so we get rid of this December date?
So a new, if that's the request,
I thought that
From-
was what you said. Sorry, I didn't.
if that's the request for the panel, then I can bring that to the council and ask them to redraw a resolution that extends the amount of time.
To be
But it would-
concurrent with the governor's executive order. And
Correct.
that's why we're asking for it.
Okay, so-
Because we
but
have a
we-
meeting of April.
As long as you understand that any budgetary impacts, we are making the public safety budget right now. Ira and I, we have to. Because,
So we're
well,
talking about budget, but we don't, like, you keep bringing that up, but we don't even know what the budget is, we haven't seen that. And
Well,
I
you
think, wasn't it, the mayor who initially wanted us to have it done by December, but, like, we don't even see a budget, so how can we pass stuff if we haven't seen numbers?
no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's suppose, I'm going back to what Maxine says. If one of the recommendations we're saying that comes out of this panel is that there needs to be money set aside in the police budget for training, then the only thing you do is make the recommendation to the council. The council looks at the I mean, there's more to it than, there's a little more of a process than that, but what I'm saying is, if that's your recommendation, then that's all that you have to, you don't have to sit down with the budget. That's what Ira and I do. Ira and I sit down with the budget and we look at where all the money is allocated because we're familiar with it. I've been doing it for almost 2 years. I understand what all the codes are, where money is allocated and what it's done, what's done with it. Then it would be up to us on the council to shape the budget with Chief Ritter. We do it in conjunction with him and the mayor.
So you're saying we would, as a panel, we're not gonna be allowed to see those numbers, or?
No, it's not that you're not allowed, it's just that you wouldn't really need to worry
to
about
do that.
what the whole budget looks like. You're just making a recommendation that has, or if, I should say it this way, if you're going to make a recommendation that has a budgetary impact. I just want the panel to understand the process in terms of when these things get done.
Okay,
That's
Bonnie.
all.
Bonnie, you had a question?
That's all.
Let's say, hypothetically, we have an education/training subcommittee. Let's say it's Michelle, me, and Levi. And we come back next week, not next week, whatever, and say, this is what we'd like to propose for 2021. This is what we'd like to propose for 2022. Now, we have to look at the reality of
Right.
personnel in the police department. We can't take everybody off the street for a couple days.
Exactly.
So we're gonna have to work together. We could do this as a subcommittee, because we're both engaged in training, me specifically with the police department, with the academy at least, and, come back for a recommendation with the panel that could meet an October deadline for
Yeah.
2021, with thoughts about 2022 and 2023. One dump of a lot of education is gonna be no education.
Right. And I think we need to be clear about that.
Yes, this isn't gonna be insta-fix.
If we could look at the areas that police reform suggests and figure out which areas would be impacted by the budget, we could make those areas top priority
Yep.
in the next, couple of weeks.
That's
and
what we
really-
said.
So I'll give you a quick one. So here's a huge budgetary impact. If this committee sees it fit to recommend body cams, that is a significant expense that would have to be factored into a budget. Those are the kind of budgetary considerations
Right.
that you should be really big ticket items. The things that are actually addressing it. It's one of the big bullet items, body worn cameras.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
There are lots of studies that talk about that.
So
Yeah.
yes.
So, but even if we make that recommendation, it still needs to go to the council.
Right.
But that's,
approval,
Well,
correct?
it's supposed to be presented.
Public comment, all the
It's
steps that we
supposed-
have to do before.
Yeah. It's
so-
got to be presented to the public as a recommendation, so in this forum. Comments taken by the public, decisions made, and then forwarded to the common council. I mean, that's what the executive order says in terms of what are the steps. So it isn't immediate or quick. I just want to say very quickly, I'm very
We're
sorry.
out of time.
It is 5:13, almost 5:15.
So we can,
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, I just wanna bring up the budget thing, so this keeps just bringing it here, because if you're saying that we need to have the budget talked about before, like, in October, we should have a working group doing this now, we need to be doing this now.
Yeah.
So, like, before we go into public comment, can we talk about this, like, now, and maybe perhaps, like, I don't know if we could follow through with email, but at least put it out there, like,
Where
who
Bonnie
wants to be
just,
that working group?
So for a point of clarity, just, for clarity, are you talking about the budget that Elizabeth is speaking about? Or are you looking at the police budget in terms of line items and how their money is allocated? Because I think it might be two different
things,
you're talking
yeah.
about.
So I guess for my clarity, I'm thinking that we need to talk about both of them, right? In order for us to kind of come up with a budget, like both of those need to be in the works at the same time, right?
I
I
don't
mean, I
think
don't
so.
No?
Are you asking me?
I'm
sorry.
not sure,
Yeah,
that's,
I'm
So
sorry,
I
I
see how the money is
can't
being spent.
see. Yeah, so I guess I'm asking, do we need to have a working group that talks about the budget, right, the policing budget? And then that same group would also work on talking about maybe, either budget cuts or, adding to the budget to get those trainings or, equipment or
I think if we do them together, you're gonna get
Okay.
really confused.
Okay.
So what we want to put something in before October, or by October, for the budget, I think to work on one thing, the high ticket items for the police department.
But what if our community survey says we don't need those high ticket items, we need a community center, or we need,
Yeah.
so
this
we
is-
really have to be careful of.
That's right.
These
And
are
that-
taxpayers' dollars, we have to be careful of what our taxpayers in our communities saying they need.
But
And
that's
that,
one part of the evidence.
that is a
Right.
very large component to this process. And so I hope that my statements aren't being taken as like because I feel like that's how I'm coming across, like I'm trying to urge you into action. I just really, that isn't it. I really hope that's not the way I'm coming across. I just want there to be clarity on the process so that as this starts to unfold in the direction we're going, I don't want there to be a point in the process where anybody thinks that, oh, it's January and we're going to make a budget recommendation. And then, we're back at the table and understanding that, oh, we can't have that thing that we wanted. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not trying to persuade one direction or another. I just want to make sure we're all clear on the process. That's all. But I have to say, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm the taskmaster. It's 5:15. I think I would like to make a recommendation that this be the focus of our meeting next week. I think this should be the one and only thing on our agenda next week, is revisiting the operationalization, as you've already discussed, Chief Ritter, components of the components of the document, and it's in our shared drive. Would you be able to break down the components in that document, and so that we can like direct us as to what we should be looking at between now?
I'll have a condensed part of it. It's really just 3 pages that is the focal point of it.
And I think that, I'm just making a suggestion, I think this should be the entire discussion for next week.
I think so.
And
I
because
think so,
next week,
too.
we don't have time for public comment because there's going to be, it's either zoning or planning, one or the other. And we'll have to let go of the live feed at 5:15.
Can I move the, under new business, because I know we need to end for live comment, sorry. Can I move that discussion to just email? I'd like to get a potential public forum and police focus group together after the survey's completed.
And that ends the 16th, right?
Correct.
Wednesday.
Can you say that again? I didn't hear what you said.
So, in assessing our community needs, we are assessing via survey, but I'd like to have a public forum available as well as a special interest group of the city police officers as a focus group to dovetail a little more into the pieces of our community. I think like that's important.
Could you maybe bring this up again next week, or what kind of time frame are you looking?
Next week is fine, I wanted to, since you said we wanted to discuss the other thing for the entire meeting,
Yeah.
I don't want it to get lost.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe send that as an email, everybody. Okay.
Elizabeth, can I make one other comment as well?
Do we have some time to
Well,
extend for public comment?
Oh, yeah.
Herb is speaking.
Okay.
We do.
Mine will be quick. The first night that I joined the committee, or that you invited me to join the event, I made an appointment with Levi, the chief. Never met him before. Went to the police department the following Monday or Tuesday, and I spent about an hour with him down there trying to get the background. I was a cop years and years ago. The times are different today than it was then. And when I took a look at it and took a look at my notes afterwards, he's the chief of police, and the only person under him that he has direct control over is not there. The only person is in the union, the president of the union. There is no lieutenant. There's no officer outside. How on earth can you expect a police department to do what we're going to be suggesting that they do in the future without some kind of support? There is no
Yeah, we
single
talked
one
about
of you
that,
in this
Herb.
room that doesn't
Yeah.
understand.
So that's a budgetary thing that if we think that that's of concern, we need to address.
What I understand from Elizabeth is that this budget thing with the city's going down pretty quick and pretty soon. And I don't know how it happened that department doesn't exist with some management people in it. Otherwise, I hate using the colloquial things, but it's like the inmates running the institution. It just can't be done. Can't be done effectively how we're suggesting, and he's given us pretty positive information here. So I think that that's going to be brought up at the council pretty quickly. And I know it's expensive, I understand that, but there are other places that I think, but never mind what I think. That's
So, for transparency and clarity, I'm not opposed to lieutenants. I've been advocating for the police department to have, or any management, I have been advocating for this for a year.
Then why don't we have?
That's a longer conversation that we don't have time for right now. But it's not.
I'd add it to the conversation somehow.
Oh, we have. I've been talking about it for a year.
But we have an opportunity to discuss it, make a recommendation, and then common council can decide to accept the recommendation or not, and if they don't, well, I guess then they're looking like they don't respect their community.
But that part of departmental operations isn't as simple as, I'm gonna make a recommendation that we need lieutenants and a captain. You were a police officer, they're procedural, and there's civil service and so on.
Or captains, I only know that a chief without some management staff, and I'm not anti-union, trust me, in no way am I, but I'm telling you, that's a real issue.
I agree. We're on the same side of the table, Herb.
Time you're gonna
Do we have any public?
Okay, so I was going to address concerns of panel members and community, but I think we already did that, so we're done with that. And now open for public comment. 15 minutes, 2 minutes per speaker. The public will address the panel, not single members or personally attacked members of the panel.
It's my first meeting, and I just want to say thank you for doing it. I see there's a lot going on. It's complicated, and but y'all are doing the work, so I just want to say thank you for stepping up and doing it.
Aubrey Eldridge. You did talk about body cams. That did get my attention. I would like to see how that could happen, how funding could be reallocated to making that happen. And then kind of like what I talked about before, how possibly we could make it happen where when someone's pulled over, that the race could be recorded, not just the gender and the age, so that we could see if certain people are being stopped over and over. You know, maybe we can address a certain officer for like misconduct or harassment. Things like that, and trying to figure out how we can make that happen, like in the budget somewhere. And then also dispatch. Another suggestion would be dispatchers for 911 shall dispatch crisis workers, health and human services workers, other organizations as needed. Police must abide by decisions of outside organizations regarding treatment of persons with mental health, substance abuse, and other needs. Just another suggestion that someone had said to me. But yeah, I really like body cams. I really think that that should be definitely very important and happen. Like, I know we live in a small town, but there are cases of people being harassed, and
It's important enough to be a big ticket item.
absolutely, absolutely. So thank you for talking about that.
Thank you.
Hi, I came here today because I wanted to hear some more results of the survey. And apparently we're not going to get to hear them today. But the reason I'm interested is because in just reading the executive order, what we're supposed to be doing, to promote community engagement, addressing particular needs of the community. And I think this survey is critical because we need to know what is going on here in Plattsburgh. We're not inner city. And by doing that, then we can make suggestions to the police. And that's my thoughts. But if there's anybody I can see during, or get information on that survey during the week, I'd really like to see that.
Look, I was at the city council meeting last time, and some stuff I disagree with the city council. They took our resource officers out of schools, and they're talking about taking resource officers out of their projects. I don't understand that. I did talk to my kids, and I did talk to some African American people in this town, asked them if those resource officers bothered you or scared your kids. I talked to them quite a bit, and a lot of them said no. That my kids, I talked to my kids about that, and they said no, it did not affect them. They actually felt more safer in school with these resource officers. Now they're a little nervous because of everything that's going on. So I'm just trying to see if the panel could try to talk to the city council and knock some brains in them and tell them to rethink about what they did. I'm sorry, I'm not bashful, okay? The chief knows I am not bashful because it's very frustrating that they're looking at Rochester, Vermont, all these other places that are having issues, but don't use us color folks for excuses to cut stuff back. Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else? No? Okay, so we'll close public comment. The next meeting is set for September 21st at 4 p.m. Motion to adjourn. Okay, I'll motion first and will second. So meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Amanda?
Yeah.
I don't think you're so personal. We're not. You get really
I get
sick.
passionate vaccine.
I know, but hey. You know, we.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Mackenzie. I write for the Press Republic.
Oh, yeah.
I was just
You trying to take the line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was looking
I'm sorry I laughed.
survey. No, because I
Because I need to run the bathroom, but I need to talk to you.